All right. Why don't we start with intros? Because as the intros go, then people kind of start piling in. And I'll just kind of give an example. So all of you know me. I'm Lele. I'm the founder of Humboldt Grace and kind of the machine, I guess, behind this project that we've been doing since 2022. I'll give a brief update on that project before Tim speaks to us, but I'm thankful for all of you amazing people. I don't think you all know each other, but I think you all have a lot to offer each other. Sorry, the passcode's messing everybody up. I didn't mean to have that on there. But it's an open email list, so you guys can all connect. So that's me. Chandra, you're a pro at this. You know our vibe, so why don't you start? And you're the first person on my screen.
Be glad to. My name is Chandra Batra. I'm a founder member of MassCan as well as Mass Patient. And I currently am jobless because my internship with Howell ended 2 months ago. And I'm debating a lot of things. If anybody has a clue, send me one. In addition to all of that, this summer I've been protesting and singing with a group called Be Vocal, as well as the Boston Poor People's Chorus. And we're actually going to go out and protest Tesla on Saturday. So I've been doing a lot of protesting. I went to the No Kings rally, which was also gay pride, and had a ball singing and actually had tons of photos taken. So I've been spending the summer protesting.
All right. Go, Chandra. Thank you. Thank you for being here, and thank you for being such a strong advocate for the plant on the East Coast. Patrick, do you want to introduce yourself real quick to everybody and let us know what you've been up to? Oh, I can't hear you.
Go. My name is Patrick King. I'm the Soil King. I don't know. I do a lot of different things, but really I'm diving into consulting across the country, very successful in all the COA testing on probiotic farming with super, super badass living soil. And I'd like to say, give Steve Angelo an apology for a few years of me following a pipeline down another way and doing my own due diligence. I found out I was wrong, and I hope you forgive me. And I want to be your friend. I've always been your friend from the day one, and hope you take my apology. Thank you.
Thank you, Patrick, for that.
Yeah.
Really, thank you. Steve, do you want to go next?
Sure. Thanks very much for that, Patrick. Look, all of us have been navigating through a really difficult situation, trying to figure out what's going on. And there's been a lot of illusion. And I think we've all tried to do our best. So happy to walk by your side, brother.
Thank you. Thank you.
My name is Steve D'Angelo. I have been a cannabis activist, educator, entrepreneur for, since I was 16 years old. And you probably know me best as the founder of Harborside Health Center and co-founder of Harborside Health Center and executive director from 2006 to 2018. Also the founder of the Last Prisoner Project, and currently working on some really interesting new stuff that grew out of the whole hemp zone, and look forward to discussing some of that with all of you in the near future. And just delighted to be here at this group. I started talking to Lele about this project a year ago, something like that, and happy to lend whatever support I can to it.
Thank you, Steve. Etienne, would you like to go next? Your lovely smoke is on my hit list.
I wish I were here to pass it around to everybody. I would share it with you all. My name is Etienne Fontan. I am owner and operator of Berkeley Patients Group, one of the oldest operating dispensaries in the U.S. I am a combat veteran of Desert Shield, Desert Storm, and have been working for veterans' rights. I helped found Americans for Safe Access, National Cannabis Industries Association, and the Veterans Action Council. And I'm here representing the Veterans Action Council and the many veterans in our stead. Thank you very much for your service, Lele.
Thank you for yours.
Yeah, you're a legend, brother.
Caleb, passing the smoke along.
Awesome. I wish I were able to share this with everyone as well. Hello, my name is Caleb Chen. I run a site called thehighestcritic.com, and I recently published a thesis called Post-Prohibition Changes in Cannabis Genetics, which highlights cannabis genetic bottlenecking, which I know everyone here is intimately familiar with. Happy to be here with y'all. I see many familiar faces and names. What up, John?
Rob, are you able to introduce yourself real quick? I know you're at work. All right, Patty.
Hi, everyone. I'm Patty Harris. I live in San Diego, but right now I'm in Oklahoma City. Go Thunder. I am a psychopharmacologist and educator for cannabis as medicine. I also am a master gardener and master tree steward. So lots of education I focus on, and I'm happy to be here and see everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Patty. Mike?
Hello. Sorry. So I am Michael Krawitz, disabled U.S. Air Force vet. I think Steve, you probably have a few years on me. I don't know, but I started as an activist when I was 17. But yeah, really not fully starting as an activist though. Working in the trenches until the 1990s. I am. I started kind of jokingly thinking of myself as that guy because most people know my work, but they don't really know me. So I start talking about what I've done, and they're like, "Oh, you're that guy." So yeah, that's kind of who I am. I think lately he's going to want me to talk a little bit about my current project at some point, but so I'll kind of reserve that. But yeah, I've been working with ATN, Veterans Action Council, and it's a very interesting sort of path that we're on that's taking us all over the world. I'll talk a little bit more about it later.
Thanks, Michael. John?
I, John Brower from Trinity County, started growing in the very early 1980s, mostly with the land races, kind of as they were coming off the boats and planes, and fell in love with all the distinctive effects and plant types, and then operated large patient groups through the whole Prop 215 era. Currently working with a licensed distributor, trying to get some of the small legacy folks paid in the real white market in California, despite all the challenges of that, the botched rollout of what could have been a really good thing. Anyway, I'm passionate about genetics and especially the old original stuff and the people that share that. And I think we're all pretty exhausted, working through this transition, but we got to just keep putting one foot in front of the other. Thanks.
Thanks for putting those foots in front of each other, John. Hey, Russell, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. Sorry. Yeah, so I'm Russell Palmer. I'm here in San Diego. I started something new just recently called the Cannabis Consumers Union. And we're kind of just focused on medicinal aspects of cannabis and educational events. We're working on quite a few initiatives, but mostly it's about that we're just not happy with what's happened with 64. And we want to go back to like focusing on patient rights and things like that. So we're organizing some events to focus back on the small farmer. One of the things we're doing, I just launched out called Meet the Farmer. And this is in response to SB 1111. Our goal is to basically bring small farmers down and tell their story and bring that content to the Museum of Us to create a humanitarian history story about cannabis, why these small farmers carried cannabis through prohibition. And as we do that, creating a direct-to-consumer model for the relationships for San Diego to support NorCal and the tourism and kind of just bring, more down to earth kind of context for the mainstream people. We also have Cali Soberfest, which is just another it's almost a digital speakeasy. I'm working on community building, and that's kind of been my whole history. Is I'm a community builder first. I work with youth, veterans, and small businesses, and I just see you all drive down Main Street and you see Starbucks has put small mom and pop shops out of business, and I think that cannabis is going to be a big part of restoring that and bringing our community back. So Cali Soberfest is right on the grounds of what used to be PB Block Party, which was about getting drunk. And I'm opposite. Everything I've done for my community building has been about health and wellness and moving away from alcohol. So we're gonna go into downtown or into on Garnett right here in Pacific Beach and be celebrating health and wellness and community, and highlighting the small farmer as our main goal. So I don't really have like a massive corporate marketing plan, but as I'm going into this community, I'm doing the Meet the Farmer as our marketing. So we're cultivating the right community to come to this Cali Sober Festival. Thank you guys.
Awesome, Russell. I didn't realize you were doing it on Garnett and that you're doing it after the. I've been to a lot of PB block parties and I've walked home with a few broken heels, so I know what you're talking about. Hey, Angela, it's so good to see your face, or I can see the top of your head right now. You want to tap in and introduce yourself? We can't hear you. All right, well, you're working on that. Well, why don't Sandy, can you tap in and say hi and catch us up for a minute on what you've been up to? Nice to see you. Oh, we can't hear you. Oh, I wonder if it's my end. Okay, there
How's that?
you got it.
Awesome. So, hey, everybody, I'm Sandy Lepp. Been growing since the 80s, high school. Raided and arrested in 1997 for being a caregiver and cultivating as a caregiver. Basically was facing 7 to 10 years, and luckily Eddie and Jack helped out get a lawyer, and I got off and didn't have to do that time. But cannabis has basically been my passion my whole life. I ended up having a serious illness. I had colon reconstruction, so I became a patient at one point and realized that it was definitely my path. I'm still, here I am still, 40 years later, I'm still at it. Definitely been a passion of mine. Old genetics, definitely another passion of mine. Maintaining old genetics, of course. Breeding old genetics. I'm not a breeder, but I play. And that's about it. I eventually moved to Lake County after I had some major surgeries, and decided that I was just going to retire and grow. And I ended up meeting Eddie. Well, not meeting, marrying Eddie. And, that's about it. Here I am. I'm still talking about cannabis, doing podcasts, and basically just trying to show people that organic agriculture is a more positive way to go because you don't damage the earth. And this plant is supposed to be a plant of regeneration, of being able to detoxify the earth. It's supposed to be a good plant. And when people start growing it with salty minerals and whatnot, they get bad runoff. And I always try to preach about good runoff should be the standard. So that's basically what I do. I talk about gardening and about the benefits of organic gardening, and do several podcasts a month. I don't have my own podcast, but I'm typically a guest on other people's podcasts. So here I am.
Thanks for being here, Sandy. You should have your own podcast. They're not that hard to do. It's just putting the footwork in. Daniel, can you say hello and introduce yourself? We have some new folks on here. Daniel?
Hey, right?
Yeah, we could kind of hear you. Oh, is that you on the iPhone?
Can you hear me okay?
Give it a shot.
Sound like you guys can hear me.
No, we can't hear you. Let me know if you get to a better spot. So the two folks we haven't been able to hear from yet is Daniel from Hendrick Farms. He's our partner with the skunk and on the Legacy Project. And then Angela from Conscious Cultivators. She's one of the partners in Conscious Cultivators up in Oregon, and they house a lot of legacy genetics and do a lot of work. And Josh, you're up next. You can say more about you and your wife than I can.
Hey, yeah, blessings, everybody. Appreciate everyone gathering for such awesome topics as what we all love and adore. Yeah, Angela's my partner with Conscious Cultivators Genetics, trying to keep, legacy genetics alive and, keep organic farming alive here in Oregon, and the slew of commercial farms and stuff coming on board here in other spots. We breed cannabis for acclimation to different environments and for different terpenes and traits. I've been keeping it going for 20 years or so, a little longer. And yeah, we're just grateful to be a part of this and always learn and figure out more with the rest of you. It's good to see a lot of people I've known, but don't usually see on here often. Patrick and some others. What's up? Hey, it's good to see everybody. Looking forward to hearing more, and really appreciate you, Lele, for bringing us all together. I
Love
think,
you, brother.
yeah, I don't think Angela's going to be able to get on audio right now. She's just in a loud environment, but she sends her regards.
She'll get the good vibes.
Yeah. Okay.
I
Blessings, you guys.
And then I don't know if whoever's on iPhone 2 wants to say hi or not. I think it might be Nathan, but I'm not sure. No? Okay. Um, I guess what I will do is do a quick review, and then then we'll introduce Tim and he can jump in. First of all, thank you, everybody. I know the world is crazy right now, and I wasn't sure if 3 people would show up today. Um, so thank you. And I want you all to know that prayers and love, no matter what side you are in this conversation, I think we all need to just hold love for each other, and the solutions will come. And this has been a great space. You guys have all really, the group has really respected that. So thank you. And that's part of the update on the white paper. Where we've gotten is Mitchell Colbert is, a lot of you might be familiar with him. He led the Ethica Data Alliance before it closed down. He now sits on the California Cannabis Advisory Board. He's written a lot of papers that have impacted policy, and he's developed education around them, around genetics. He's written done some grant work that's been successful, and he's willing to come in and really help get this white paper done in a professional manner, in a way that honors all the work that all the folks, and a lot of the folks aren't here today, that have put in the work to make this possible. And so we're raising a little bit of money. If everybody put in $20, we would get to that place really quickly in the group. We've already had some donations. Thank you, Etienne. Thank you, Steve. And there's some others that aren't on the call. Booney Acres has donated. A gentleman named Mike Robinson has donated. And I think I'm forgetting 2 other people. But we really just want to internally raise this small amount of money. It's about $3,000 to $5,000. So we can really move forward with a finished piece of work and avoid a lot of the politics around all this. And so where we're at with the white paper is, we see, with working with Mitchell and a few other folks, that what we're going to be able to educate on is the value of sharing resources, meaning, how Legacy built these communities and built this industry, the power of mutual respect, how building on the plant's values, love and grace works, collaboration between different people coming together, creating innovative solutions. I think what people are going to be really excited about is that the actual data we have right now, and we have offers to get some patient data and some other data to align with this, but what we have alone shows very clearly that the skunk one reacts differently in different environments. So it really gives the value. It starts showing with scientific information the value of terroir, the importance of these special legacy regions where these, all over the world, not just here, and where they were developed, the importance of the knowledge behind that person working with that plant. And then, of course, we'll also be sharing the system. Since we've done this project, there's been a lawsuit that's been won through the validation of DNA genetics. So we have some of that information to pull into the white paper. Caleb's done an amazing job of putting something together that explains why, one of the reasons that this is so important, that helps support the work that we've been doing. And I'm really excited. And so we're going to put this together. And then the plan is to build a 1 to 2 year education program. I've talked to quite a few of you in this group, like, what should we do next? Build a 1 year to 2 year education program so we can share this with the state. We can share this with schools. We can share this with organizations. We can share this with whoever will listen, and work towards the auction house. The market is not ready for the auction house. The growers aren't ready for the auction. But I see within a year or two, we could really start building on that model. So we're not only educating, but we're helping economically empower these folks as well. And if you want to learn more, I've gotten some grumbles in the group around the auction, in fear that, like, we're trying to be the big dog. And I can promise you that the auction model was designed to create a more circular economy. So like how we built this industry. And if you look up, there was an auction model that was designed by two gentlemen at Stanford University that won a Nobel Prize. And it won a Nobel Prize because what it did is it created true equity with radio waves. And that's what this auction model does. So any questions around that? I have a 29-page paper that I wrote to help show what it is. There's a lot more to put into it. Shoot. But that's where we're at. I don't want to talk a lot about it, but if you have any questions, we can talk about it in sesh. And once we raise the money, we're going to have a meeting together with Mitchell, and we'll start going in. And what I'd like you all to think about is what are going to be our calls to action after this? What are we going to ask of people? And then also, what do you hope the white paper and the work we've done will help share? And as we move along, what are we missing? Because you guys all have different experiences. So we'll move forward with this white paper the same way we did with the first one. So any quick questions before we dive into someone who's done everything that we've been working on? No? Okay, awesome. Tim?
Lele, I just want to say I'm willing to help with training material because I've helped establish a cannabis training center before. And if you need help with that, I'm happy to help.
Yay. Well, that will be our next step is fundraising to build that material after we finish the white paper. I don't want to ask before we've finished the work. There's a lot of, it's just a good industry to be there before you ask, and we're almost there.
And I've also got a book on organic pesticides, and would be happy to donate that also to the project as part of the standards for growing if that's something you'd be interested in.
I really want to stay in our lane.
All right, I'm just throwing it out there, but
yeah. This
right.
is a crazy enough conversation in the industry as it is that I just want to stay really focused so we get to that end game of the auction that we all came together for initially. But right now I think it's wonderful, and maybe there's a way to reference it. That's something to bring up with Mitchell, but I think let's wait on that. All right. So I don't know if you guys all read Tim's bio, and I'm not going to be able to recall all Tim's bio, but I'll tell you what I like about Tim and why I'm stoked that Tim is here is Tim has a really fascinating real history, OG, whatever you want to call it, legacy, heritage history, and actually interacted with some of my local community up here in the Willow Creek, way up in those hills, I won't say where areas, which is a pretty special spot to get into. But then in the same time that a lot of us started seeing what was happening with legalization in 2009, Tim took steps to do what we're doing and has made some really smart decisions from that legacy perspective that I think we can all learn a lot on. So I'm going to put you on the big screen, Tim.
Oh, wow.
Thank you for being here.
Yeah, well, thank you so much. That's really awesome of you, Lele. And I'm humbled just to be in the presence of all of you guys here. And some of you I've met and some of you I haven't had the chance to meet yet. But man, your stories are just, I just love hearing it. And I love what we all share, and that's deeper than cannabis, and it's just a passion for doing something better and doing something good. So it's really nice to meet all of you guys and be here. So thanks again. Yeah, so I much like y'all, right? People are like, when did you get started? And oftentimes I tell a quick story. As a young man, I have, much like you guys have over the years, but I had to run for my life at one point, like run for my life. And I'll never forget that, the feeling, the sweat, how it hurt, and just it was life changing. But what's been further life changing is sticking with this plan and letting it guide me over the years to the point where we get to talk like this now. I've got the privilege of being invited to universities and governments all over the world and really work on some cool stuff with some really great people, some of you guys. So I just feel blessed to be here, and I think taking the experience of what folks have done over the years, yours, mine, all of the folks who have put their time in, and understanding it and looking at it and see how we can improve as a group and improve what this plant can do and stuff is really important. It's what drives me. It's what drives me every day, right? Back in those Ohio days, the weed I was growing, the first time I got that real with it was around a fire when I had a great friend who was really suffering, and the herb I was giving that woman was the only thing that was just keeping her going. And I really got the understanding of the power of it there, and that's what pulled me in. And if you guys know, it's incredible to be in that as a young person and back in those times, because it was incredibly dangerous at times too, but also advantageous, right? For those of us who are entrepreneurs and in this with the plant. So yeah, I cut my teeth many years ago, and I've been blessed by the plant since then. I kind of geek out on genetics. I'm a horticulture scientist, and I really like what the cannabis plant genome can do and the opportunities to express there. I love it. I love what we've created as a legacy industry, having such an open and complex genome and having so many different varieties to work from, look at, and understand and make medicine from is super cool. I love the science of cannabis chemistry, and seeing how the plant influences itself and how the environmental delta influences. I love what some of you guys are talking about. I've seen it with my own eyes, how you can really take a very stable genetic, whether it's a strawberry or it's a cannabis plant, and grow it in different regions of the world, and it'll express differently. And that's the environmental delta that will always influence plants no matter what, or however stable or unstable they may be. But I think it's absolutely amazing, those kind of things that are expressed here. And that's what led me to a lot of what I really got into on the genetic side. And outside of breeding cannabis genetics, I really wanted to understand more about them. So I pursued understanding the science of it really hardcore in a manner that was like outside of the norms, just really using the influence of groups of higher education and different universities and colleges that were willing to listen to me, help me along the way. There's been some really great people over the years. But what I started to geek out on was the complexity and the stability and the influence. So I started working with these genetics, and I found one that I actually worked with since 2015. It became when I started doing genetic biosequencing and looking at the genome itself for stability characteristics, I soon learned from some geneticists of really what I was doing and working with here on a complex level. So I had a very stable genome that I was creating. In a subsequent back crossing, I made a variety of very stable traits and was able to identify very specific alleles and work within those. And what I also like about cannabis is great in the genome for manipulation. It's not necessarily modification, but you can manipulate the genome very easily. So I created this genetic and called it CBDRX18. And it became recognized by the National Institute of Health and National Center for Bioinformatics as the reference genome, meaning it was the most complete genetic biosequence of a cannabis genome to date that was homozygous, meaning very stable. So I worked on that, you guys, since 2015, and actually was just recently awarded in January of this year. It was a long process, a lot of stuff to do, but it really tested the boundaries of science and complexity for me. But it was very interesting. A lot of the work I did was referencing other cannabis genetics, some of the ones Layla is referenced right now, and doing sequencing and comparative models against those as to what their alleles say and what different traits are looking like for different aspirations or products to push out of the genetic, whether it's a flavorant or anything like that. So yeah, it's been a pretty cool journey. I really love what I do. Like I said, I really geek out on the science of things, and what was really cool about what Layla's doing in the project in general, especially with Skunk One, is the stuff that I kind of did here, and I wanted to just help see if I could help and apply some of the science that I've already done and paid for over the years to help push this along in a manner that maybe adds some more factors of stability for people's decisions and stuff like that. And one of the other things, guys, I've got to do that I just love on the genetic world is, some of you guys have mentioned it, I've got to collect heirloom genetics. I've been 19 different countries, my partner and I. We've collected genetics from places that very few white people have been. I'll just give you one instance, you guys. We got embedded in northern India with the Kuku tribe. The last folks that were there, we got smuggled into India. This is no joke. We didn't go to customs or anything. We got smuggled in during COVID. Big risk. We went up to the northeast province up there, visited an area in a specific village that Christian missionaries left in 1976. That was the last time the folks were there. And with a very specific mission and some cool guides who helped us get there. But we were able to secure some really cool, some of the, like I call them archaic, the genetics that are just amazing. We've got to do that in different parts of the world: South America, Pakistan, Uzbekistan, Canada, Europe. Man, just been blessed by this plant, and I love the opportunity it brings. So yeah, genetics has been kind of my thing. I've been blessed on the business side. I've been good in math, so I'm as an entrepreneur, I can see things ahead of time, and me and this plant have just been honest with each other since day one, and it's helped me flourish in business, and I've been blessed that way. So I try to stay incredibly humble and just be a voice of reason and help where I can. My current project, I'm actually up in northern Minnesota helping a tribal organization building their program for them. It's really fun, really, really cool. We're doing some cool genetic work up here as well. Patrick's helping me out up here. So we're doing some fun stuff and continue to do that and just absolutely loving what I do, just like you guys. So Lily, maybe I'll pause there if there's any questions or if you wanted me to get on a specific subject here. I'm happy to do it.
Well, we have, I think, a group of folks here that would probably be interested in questions. I know I have a few questions, but I will open it up. Thank you, Tim. Wow, that was thank you for being here and sharing this with us. Boy, there's a lot to glean from you. What an honor. All right, anyone in the group have any questions for Tim about any of this?
I have a question. My question is, could you tell a little bit more about your personal patient story and the trouble and hardship that you through to go through all this? I remember a little bit about your struggle, but everybody else wants to hear about how challenging it is to get here.
All right, did you get that, Tim?
No, it was pretty difficult on this end to hear.
I think what you wanted to hear about any work that you've done that impacts patients, and then a little more about the struggles to get here, because that's where her advocacy is at. So I imagine that.
Yeah, I've been an advocate for the plant for many years. When I got going in the regulated market in 2001, we allowed medical cannabis in the state of Colorado. In 2003, I became a medical patient there. I started my caregiver cooperative called Medicinal Gardens of Colorado. It led to me opening a bigger dispensary and stuff like that. But what I was patient focused there and plant focused. I always grew organically. I started another doctor's office in the city of Fort Collins that still operates today called CARES. And it's an acronym for Compassionate and Alternative Referral Evaluation Services. But it's basically where medical patients can get their medical card at a one-time fee, where my company would pay the other half of it. We've also had the opportunity of starting a couple of nonprofits and working for nonprofits over the years. First one was Front Range Normal, which we started back in 2007. Myself, Greg Stinson, and Bo Schaefer, who was a professor at Colorado University, started the 501c3 with the focus of educating about cannabis and medical cannabis. It later turned into Colorado Normal, which got pretty big. But yeah, I've like you guys probably too. It's what's true to my heart is the advocacy for patients and patients' rights and the access and ability to safe cannabis. Again, it's one of the reasons I back in 2007 we didn't even have anything to work on, and I just started a dispensary because I had people that needed it. And, I went under the radar, called it a health company and stuff kind of came out in 2009. But, I recognized the needs and I tried to run my business and my life to serve in that way around the plant and the people. It's a cool question though.
All right. We have, I think, is this maybe Mike? Is that your question, Mike? Can you? And then Patrick had something to say.
Talking to me?
No. I think I can't see who's on iPhone 36. What he's asking is, have you ever found any heirloom CBG?
Heirloom genetics that contain CBG. Yeah. CBG's, as you guys know, it's kind of the precursor gene, and it's often kind of difficult to find when it's in plants in post-maturity, unless it's a a very specific, allele that stays present. But I wish my partner was here because we did pick up some genetics in Uzbekistan. And when we brought them back and we tested fluorescent profile, terpene profile, and cannabinoid profile, it was present for CBG between 2 and 4%, but it was there. But I haven't seen anything, especially like what we would call heirloom genetics, stuff that hasn't been bred or hybridized that I can either classify in that way. I haven't seen much on the CBG side as far as like even, I've seen trace amounts, what I would call up to 5% on a reading, but there's a deviation for accuracy there you have to take in mind, but nothing where the trait would be considered a dominant expression.
Wow, thanks, Tim. Patrick.
Man, yeah, it's good to be here, Tim. Somebody I've followed for many years and looked up to and seen the space, and then working with you too is great. It's awesome. So I'm really glad about that. I guess kind of a question I really like to talk about is storage of seeds, right? What's your seed bank? I always ask those questions because I got unviable seeds because of my storage, and I got my seed bank set up, and so that's kind of how do you store them for that long of a time?
Yeah, that's really important, and I feel that so many times over the years. That's a great question, but you guys actually what I've settled for is a very specific model. It's a base model Frigidaire, believe it or not. Where I can keep at a very specific between 44 and 43 degree temperature internally, and with the humidity right around the same amount. Now, as long as those seeds are stored in a dark environment, usually I just did a set here from a replication I did for Sensi Seeds years ago. And they were probably, this was a 3-year-old set, and we had 90+% emergence.
Wow.
Seed storage is really important. Seed handling during storage is really important. Stuff that affects germination is definitely the moisture content, the size of the batch that's being held, and stuff like that. I will say this too, you guys. I've held 55-gallon drums of seed. That's been cannabis seed that's been used for textile production, the classification of hemp and stuff like that. So you go back to traditional kind of forms of scaled agriculture and cannabis production, where hemp's grown for textile or cannabinoids or a food product. Seed storage can be very different than what we do in what I would call specialty crop production, horticulture style, where it's kind of done in scaled environments, usually cooled warehouses, etc. So.
Can I add one more question to back that up? I got genetics when I was 13, over 40 years old. We're like some outliers, right? And I can't even bring it back. I haven't even tried because I don't want to lose them. And so that system, I ask people, there's a million things out there that people say to do, but trust in social media isn't really a good idea, right? Yeah. So I'm asking, what's your process on cracking really old seeds?
Yeah, that's a great question. That is
my question too, Patrick. Thank you.
Yeah, that's a really super smart question, you guys. Everybody has their own way, like this. What I do tend to tell people to avoid is any kind of scoring measures. For older lineage seeds, like I've seen folks kind of take the dental pick and try to score and see if it will work there. What's worked best for me is a very specific pH, very specific consortia of bacteria, and very specific temperature over a very small amount of time. So what that looks like is pH, a Bacillus consortia, in 79-degree water for 4 hours. And I'm not joking. That's been enough for me to take 7 and 10-year-old seeds that a couple of folks have been like, man, I couldn't even get these to crack. And I've been able to do it. From there, I go into, you guys, this will make you laugh, but from there, I go into the old school way. If there's seeds like that, I wrap them up in a brown paper towel, same temperature, just monitor that and let those, crack. But so that's what I usually do, honestly, is temperature, pH, and a Bacillus consortia. And I soak for about 4 hours.
Awesome.
That's good to know. Yeah, I've got a question regarding like where you may have sourced some of your seeds in the past. I'm always curious where, you mentioned kind of how you got your start and everything, what you did, but where did you first come across genetics that you decided you wanted to work with?
Oh, the first time I didn't get high. The first time I didn't get high, I knew something.
No high.
Yeah, I was just like, "What's this? Like, what is this?" And everybody's like, "No, this is inert." And I was like, "Wait a second, this isn't inert. There's something else happening here." So that was really like the first aspect for me and I was just like, man, I wanted to search this out and understand why. So yeah, I went on, a small genetic search. Back in the 90s, I went to normal meetings, found some growers, I did the whole, brickweed thing and keeping seeds and finding females and keeping those and stuff. Inevitably, like in 2001, I went to my first experience in Amsterdam, and it was really cool. I got to meet Jack in 2001 there. I'm sure Steve may have been there. I don't even remember. But that was my first time, like really meeting everybody, who's been in the European Legacy group and getting genetics from them and understanding it. And so I sourced from all of the old school guys back in the day, and just did a lot of my own sourcing across the globe when I could.
Nice. Thanks.
Yeah, man. Thank you.
Any more questions yet? I think Steve has a question. Unmute yourself, Steve.
Okay. Yeah, Tim. I'm interested in some of those adventures you must have had going to those 19 countries. Like, what was the scariest adventure you were on? What was the most rewarding one?
Yeah. Let's see. I've had a couple of scares, Steve. I would say the biggest scare was being followed in Medellin in the early 2000s, and I actually ran into a Catholic church and stayed there and getting escorted out by the police and everything. I was so scared for my life. So that was probably one of the more scared times where I was in the country specifically to visit some friends and acquire genetics. Let's see, most rewarding. That's an interesting one. That's interesting. Let's see. In 2023, I went to the UAE, and I got this small group of seeds in a like a cool little bag, and I think there were about 16 of them. And they didn't really have a description, but more of a story that they were genetics that had been grown for royalty for years there. And it was something that was important to them, and they felt was a really important gift for someone they trusted. So it was really cool for me to get those. I still have those, and I haven't even touched them. You see, those recent ventures I've done in India, those are always really intriguing. That just getting over there, getting smuggled into the country, like not even going through customs. Like, this is no joke. Not even going through customs, but getting smuggled into the country. Going to meet with Modi's cabinet, some of the highest caste individuals who are looking to build a global cannabis economy in India. So they brought me in there, and we met with a lot of different people. They took us on tours, and I finally developed a strong enough relationship with our guide to be like, I have a very specific genetic that I want to get from a very specific village. You guys may have heard of, there's one called Manala, the genetic Manala. It's very known for making Manala cream, which is from India, which is just the essence of hash, right? But the genetic has been around since eons, but has also come out of those villages in like 2015-ish, 2016. So I wanted to go back and find it for myself to a village where I know it was grown, it was in the same region, but no folks had went. So I got some great video. I should share it with you guys at some point. It's like the culmination of like Anthony Bourdain, National Geographic, Vice, and like some kind of survival thing. But yeah, it was amazing. We got into the village. I met the chief of the village. We actually got to sit down, smoke a chillum that he made with the tobacco he grew, the cannabis he grew, and the hash that his wife and he had made, and talk about cannabis in general. By that time, there were kids around us. We're on a dirt floor, and there's chickens, and the community ends up showing up, bringing gifts and stuff. Gosh, I think I smuggled close to 2 kilos of seed out of that trip. And yeah, my gosh, Steve, I've just just been blessed, much like you, my friend. Just love what this plant's been doing for my life, and I love the opportunities that it brings all of us, and the understanding and grace it brings all of us as well. So.
Yeah, thanks for sharing, Tim. Just to close that circle, in 2019, I went to maybe the largest cannabis freedom march I've ever been to in Medellin.
Yeah.
Over 250,000 people. So.
Yeah. I was down there with at that time I was there with my partners Pablo and Miguel. Colombian Organics guys, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So we do a lot of work together. But I was there at that time and at that event, and you're right, that was something else. To go yeah, just like I said, to go from running for your life to being able to speak like this, and going from being in Medellin and being followed and scared to being, 15 years later, here's like 250,000 people that are sharing the same thing as I did. It's so cool, so blessed.
Indeed, we have been.
Yes, sir.
Anyone else have more questions before I ask a few? Was that you, Mike? No? Okay. Well, I have a couple. Um, you know, what about, have you seen any possibilities? I'm just going to try to go from the beginning. I wrote a list of like DNA extraction from seeds working to revitalize them.
Geez, that's a good question. I know that's done in other forms of agriculture. It's been done for like other forms of lineage crop that people bring back or find seeds of. It's a good question. I don't know if that's being done. I'd have to look into some of my research contacts, but probable. I would say that, Lele.
Okay. And then as far as preservation, you said you're really focusing on seeds. What about tissue culture around that conversation? In these regions, we have a lot of concerns because of power, all sorts of stuff, but and it's a financial hurdle as well. So I'm just curious about that.
Yeah. I love all these aspects of preservation and stuff. And I love culture for that specific reason, is for genetic preservation. Tissue culture has a different place in horticulture and stuff and in cannabis. But I will say this: there's some like common horticulture thoughts between, when someone's going to spend money on a culture genetic, and you have to bring that into an environment that is safe and sound for that. And then, what does that further look like to bring it into a greenhouse where you're losing your environmental control delta? So,
Oh.
So here's what I like tissue culture for preservation. When people try to sell me on being, hey, I'm going to build a tissue culture lab and sell genetics to the world. Okay, maybe if you're doing those for singular kind of things, but it's not like bananas or anything like that. If I were to buy cultured cannabis genetics and bring them to my farm, they're subject to the environmental delta right there. So whether it's pathogenic or any kind of influence, it doesn't matter. The tissue culture product is influenced by that. Now, if I'm in a controlled environment and it's real tight CEA, controlled environmental agriculture, I can see it. Preservation, yes, and I've done it for preservation before, but I don't do it for scale. It's just not needed for scaled replication, nor does it make sense.
Well, and it sounds like what I just got from what you said is you're going to lose a lot of the strength and stability of the plant through that.
Well, yeah, you have to. They're taking a plant out of culture is a unique thing in itself. Coming out of culture and further getting it adapted to an environmental delta is intrinsically difficult. Try doing that at scale, like when you're doing, trying to brew 50,000 and harden them off appropriately, harden them off for sale and transportation and stuff like that. Those costs end up being stupid. The best thing now is we have science behind us where you can do pathogenic, viroid, any kind of testing now to see if a cultivar is clean. And if it is, you're safer to do either asexual replication or clonal replication because of the costs.
Interesting. So do you see it, like the future in large cannabis, there being more of an opportunity for seed production than clone production because of that?
Yeah, absolutely. We're already that's kind of what I did on this genetic. Like what I wanted to do is I wanted to get it very, very stable so I could do back cross-rel asexual replication, and I would get an exact replica, and I wouldn't have the variance of having a non-homozygous genetic. So if you can stabilize the genetic and asexually back cross it appropriately, where your prodigy, is of exact similar descent and very stable, that makes complete sense, right? Because as you guys know, you can put a plant into asexual flowering, reproduce asexually at a fraction of the cost you can do for clonal replication, both time and labor and cost associated with that. So that's what I've started doing even at scale. I did it here. I'm not planning from clone. I'm planning from seed because I back crossed, hit stability, back crossed one more time, and I'm crossing out my chances for hermaphroditic or any kind of anything to show up that shouldn't be in this series.
Oh, okay. So I want to ask, I have two more questions. One is about the alleles. One of the things that we had two skunks,
Yeah.
and we found these unique alleles on them. I would be curious to just look at like see if that's something you didn't find. Not both of them didn't have them. Both of them had the variants that identified with what David's produced, but this other one had something different that medicinal genomics hadn't seen before. So I'd be curious to have a conversation with you around that. I guess that's not really a question.
No, those are really good points. Inevitably, that's how I, like got my plants, right? I started with something really cool. I back crossed it, and it was like, and when I went and I did my genome sequencing, we found all the alleles, but we found something else associated with different alleles really cooler, and I was like, keep that. And so, that's the kind of stuff that, is really fascinating is when you start doing stability back crossing, oftentimes you can, as you're, creating stability, you are also going to exemplify some very unique opportunities.
Well, that's really cool because the breeder who did what you said has gotten a lot of flack, and and what you're saying is that the potential is that those unique alleles are from his talent, which, like, we can't prove that or not, but it would be interesting to look at. So that's very interesting. My last question was, so with seeds, and this is just what my brain is thinking logically, when you're doing a licensing agreement, like a royalty agreement with a company, then you're probably not doing it around the matter. You're probably doing it around the DNA test.
Yeah, the licensing in cannabis and genetics is a unique thing here. It's very unique in any kind of specialty crop. But I will say this, I have licensed out CBD-RX-18 to 2 universities for research at times. And the research is very, very, very specific. And because they're universities and they have specific protocols, they weren't going to take anything that I had done and use it as, proprietary information for them. They were just using it simply for reference. But yeah, it's very unique to do. Yeah.
That's interesting because Canopy Right is developed so we can track the clones through track and trace for a licensing agreement. But seeds are really where this culture is at, and it's where that legacy is at, right? And so I've been curious, but after that case was won based on the genomic testing, I thought, oh, I bet you could build some sort of thing around the test itself for accountability and verifiability.
Yeah, you absolutely can. Big Ag does that all the time, right?
Okay.
Yeah. The thing about it is, Lele, is the intrinsic cost of doing so makes it almost like, I don't know if I should do this because not everybody has a bottom line to be able to play in cannabis science like this.
That's why we need an auction.
There you go. There you go. I like that.
Totally. Well, those are all my questions. Does anyone else have any questions or anything? And then I'll open it up. I know Michael has some stuff to share, kind of an update on the UN and a project that he's embarking on. I don't know, Caleb, if you want to share anything. I see a lot of folks in this conversation that might be interested in being interviewed by you for the archives. I don't know, if you want to share any of that. But if anyone else has, our sessions are kind of about lighting a joint and figuring out ways to support each other, whether it be in conversation or resources. So Caleb, you look like you're ready to say something.
Yeah, I'll be up in Humboldt and Trinity on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, at North Fork Grange on Friday and Saturday, and then the Mateel on Sunday and Monday. And the Legacy Genetics Project will be there talking about doing its community outreach. And so really want people to bring their hard questions.
And he's referring to not our project, but the Cal Poly Cannabis Legacy
the
Project.
DCC funded project, which I understand causes some consternation. Consternation.
I think it's mostly within our own communities that it causes that.
Yes, and I completely understand it, which is why the invitation to bring hard questions. And yeah, absolutely. I'd love to chat with anyone that would like to chat. And I'm very happy for the invitation to be here. Thank you, Lele.
Can you explain a little bit what you and Dominic are doing with the archival work and the stories?
So Dominic and Nick and I's sub-scope in the project are ethnographic interviews, similar to the types of interviews that he did while writing equity assessments around the state over the last several years. And they are by default anonymized, and they are just to tell collective stories. So the end output of our work will be 2 academic journals that will be journal articles that will be published in open access journals. So anyone will be able to read them. And they're going to be about California in a global context, like the plants that came to California, from where in the global context is California is not the only legacy cannabis location in the world, as we heard Tim talking about before. And then the second article is about regions within California and how genetics moved in between communities there. And yeah, so those 2 articles will be coming out like not for another whole year. And this project is still ongoing for another year.
Good work, Caleb. Mike K.
Hello. So I've been trying to figure out how to make this a very short briefing. And the only way to do that is to sort of dance all over the place. So if I lose you, just stop me. But starting at the beginning, I guess I want to say what brought me to Lele in this project was auction. My dad was an auctioneer. I spent my entire life in the auction business. But I am, as I said before, I'm that guy, right? So I'm the guy that helped work through the change in the International Drug Control Treaty. And removing cannabis from Schedule 4 of the Single Convention on Narcotic Drugs in 2020 was a milestone of a 10-year project that we've been working on within the UN and by extension, the World Health Organization. So changing the treaty was sort of step A in sort of embracing the future, getting to what we could hopefully someday call legal cannabis, the legal cannabis world, the legal cannabis market, right? The way you can look at the treaty change was really it created a situation where there was no longer anywhere to hide from medical use of cannabis. In other words, it brought medical cannabis above boards and a legitimate medical product in the world. To quote the International Narcotics Control Board, when I asked them years ago why they weren't helping us ensure access to this medicine, because that's part of their mandate to ensure access to medicine, they said, well, when the World Health Organization says it's a medicine, that's when our mandate kicks in to ensure access to this medicine. So as a part of this process, by necessity, the World Health Organization changed its position. That was back in 2018. And true to their word, the International Narcotics Control Board started working on access to cannabis medicine. About that time, and that's all just for historical purposes, the real sort of relevant stuff kicks in with work that I can attribute to Kenzie Ribulet, our ally in Barcelona, who really led the team in starting to understand and navigate this new world of legal cannabis. What does this mean to be legal? How does it work? How do legal herbal medications work in this world of ours? And he started digging into a whole new series of stuff. Instead of Vienna, Austria, where we were at the UN and these Commission on Narcotic Drugs and that kind of stuff, now we're over in Geneva, Switzerland, with the World Health Organization and the World Intellectual Property Organization, and et cetera. And within those circles, we have a whole bunch of agreements and treaties that we've signed. And I say we, I mean the human race, not the United States. The United States hasn't signed any of these. But the United States, I'll say, still has to comply with these things because we have trading partners all over the world that use them as their guidelines. So, we comply with these things whether we sign these treaties or not, these treaties that I'm about to mention. So where does this cross over with us? Last year, our team brought over to Vienna, Austria, to the UN, David Watson, Sam the Skunk Man, to come and speak to the UN about this exact subject. And to summarize his speech, he said a few things of great relevance to our work. One was that this is not looking backward. He explained how these genetics came to our possession, how we are handling them in our cannabis culture and our cannabis movement throughout the world, how they were given freely in an exchange that was mostly to avoid prohibition. And prohibition, obviously from Tim's really great stories, is not over yet. You got to keep that in mind. We're not there yet, but we're already working on the next day, but we're not there yet. And you have to end prohibition before you can start legal trade in cannabis. That's kind of the first, layer of this. And it is happening. I lost count at about 40 countries that changed their policy since 2020 with regard to medical cannabis. But there's 186 countries that are signers of the treaty. And what David Watson was saying was basically this. We're not looking back. We're not looking for, some sort of payment of, I forget what the word is, but, paying back past debts, past damage. However, we have to draw a line at some point. And from that point forward, we start following the law. And I thought it was ironic. I wrote myself a note to mention how ironic it is that the illegality of cannabis is preventing us from following the law. But we have treaties like the Convention on Biological Diversity, that last year brought into focus with GRATIC. It's a Genetic Resources and Traditional Knowledge, Associated Traditional Knowledge Treaty, Madrid Protocols. These are all things that if you look them up, they'll show you sort of how we should be handling these genetic materials that are products of national sovereignty, of individual farmers and communities' wealth of experience and understanding and heritage and hard work and possession. They own it and they own the product of it. And as we go to the future, what David was saying is we need to start following that law. And what it would mean is that in the future, we'll have a situation where you get a genetics from a source, you produce products from those genetics, and you create a line, a continuity where you have shared resources, shared profit sharing, and being that this whole project is around monetizing the genetics to save our culture and our cannabis growers from the machine. This is of great importance to us, I think, to understand how this works and to start aiming towards it. And that you really have to kind of look at a couple of things. The history of cannabis shows us that in terms of medical cannabis, medical access to cannabis, you go back 100 years or so, and you look at the pharmaceutical giants like Park Davis and Eli Lilly that were actually distributing this cannabis. They were sourcing. They didn't know what the active ingredient was, right? They didn't discover it until the 50s and 60s. So this is 90 years, 70 years, 80 years before that discovery. They were just using whole cannabis extracts, whole cannabis tinctures, whole flower preparations, exactly what we're doing now. And they were sourcing that material based on national differences that in certain parts of the world, based on this terroir and all the stuff that we're talking about, there were distinct differences in that cannabis, different enough that they could prescribe it for like source from one country for anxiety and source it from another country for pain, for example. And David Watson's work, I've tried to boil it down. I've tried to be a good student. And basically I've come up with a plan that tries to implement his vision to bring back that heritage, to repair the damage done. Sorry, I get emotional. To repair the damage done by prohibition and shorten that link, reconnect us with the past, where again, throughout the world, we can have this unique cannabis. There's going to be benefits to this. There's going to be incredible benefits to this. This is how we get out of some of the horrible ailments that have come under the cannabis crop from indoor cultivation and the averaging of cannabis, the hybridization of cannabis. A lot of these can be solved through this sort of recipe that I got from David. And just to read you in on this project, 30-second version, we're going to be working with member states, countries, to create somewhat of a zone, an experimental zone, to work within that zone to try to bring back legacy cannabis that is good in that region. Looking to the future, not the past. We're working all from the past. Everything we're talking about is working from the past. I'm working from the future. And I'm telling you, the weed in the future is going to kick ass. Totally, totally kick ass. And when they start writing songs about cannabis again, you'll know we're on to the right, right? So anyway, hopefully that gives a little bit of a picture of what I'm talking about. There's a couple of elements on a national scale. It's going to involve tourism. And if you want to learn more about tourism and our take on how tourism can work in this big picture, not cannabis tourism, check out Veterans Action Council. I forget what roundtable was, like 86 with Brian Applegars. We did a deep dive on tourism in the cannabis space. And member states, the conversation is all around what I just said. This is the law. They know the law. They follow the law. They just don't do it for cannabis. Cannabis needs to reintegrate. It needs to get back to where it once was, side by side with the other herbal medications, and given the rights and status of a legal herb again. And that's in a nutshell. I'd say that's what I'm working on.
Can I just say thank you? Yeah. Thanks for your work, Mike. And man, if I could give you a hug right now, I'd give you a hug, brother. Like respect, like honor and respect. Thank you.
We will be at the UN next month, but Michael and I are going to be doing it remotely. So we have credentials to be in. So we will have the VAC Zoom room open. If anybody wants to chime in and see what's going on at the international level, that will be happening mid-July.
Wow.
And just to fill in, that's a high-level political forum in New York, United Nations, First Ave. We're entering into it through the right to health, which is one of the Sustainable Development Goals. And we're preparing a paper with folks in Canada and elsewhere in our small team that we're going to be putting into the system as an official conference paper on the right to health, access to cannabis medicine for children for Dravet syndrome.
If I can be a help to you guys in marketing or anything, reach out, collaboration, or whatever I can use to use my platform and to support this, I am 100% yours. Yeah.
I try to make everything sort of available through channels like Follow
Yeah.
Veterans Action Council. I try to make things open to take in input. But this isn't necessarily going to be the kind of thing that's going to be an open project. I mean, it's
Yeah.
top down, sort of working with member states internally. I'm giving you all a read in because I love you all and I want your input and I want you to be part of this.
Yeah.
My hope is that when we have this white paper done, that it'll help with that too. Which is,
I mean, the other elephant in the room is the farmers. And I want you to know that this project is driven by the farmers, by the communities, by their wishes. What is tourism? Ask them. What is commerce and cannabis? Ask them. What are the proper genetics for their region? Ask them. So there we go again. So this is about enforcing law to protect that, to enforce that. And if you can find folks that are in that situation where they have a plot of land that, is, I can see from space where they grow good weed, give me a call if they want to work with me. I'm taking applications.
right on. Anyone have anything else to share? Thank you, all of you, for really sharing your heart and your experience. There's not enough sharing in this game right now, and it just makes us so powerful. Mike, do you want to share what you're up to? Yeah, Mike Robinson. And thank you so much. I mentioned your name earlier, but thank you for your donation. Greatly appreciated.
You're very welcome. I'm in this for the patients to begin with. That's how I first came into this whole gig, was through compassion. It's how I was introduced to getting better. That's how I've stayed alive for the last decade, fighting multiple cancers, was because compassion introduced me to how to use the plant the way you would need to. I've smoked weed since I was 8.5 years old, but I've used medicinal cannabis since I was about 50, 49, something like that. You know what I mean? So it's only been like 10, 12 years. But I'm really feeling a lot from what I've heard here. A lot of emotion. I traveled this nation with 3 stage 4 cancers for 3 years, bringing oil to kids that needed help. And what a lot of people don't know about me, they know the cannabis love story, they might know little tidbits, is that I'm a former civil rights lobbyist, registered in California in 1997. I've sat on a UN subcommittee representing kids with disabilities across the nation, generally suing school district, states, and et cetera, for restraint, seclusion, and abuse. So I was very much centric into one area, but I have severe epilepsy. I've had it since 1995. I've got a biological son, and I have 2 daughters here with autism. So autism and epilepsy has been very centric. I've traveled. A lot of kids have died that I helped. And my mission in all of this is to see your mission succeed, because without your mission, these kids keep dying. And there might be a lot of talk about it, and we might read about it, but I feel like I can bring something different to the table because I've experienced it over and over again. You can't do hands-on compassion for a number of years and then keep in it and not keep getting continual pictures and memorials and things like that. It doesn't stop. So I see the passion in your group. I founded the Global Cannabinoid Research Center after spending a year with Dr. David Bierman in the American Academy of Cannabinoid Medicine as a director there. And I would definitely give my time to write a paper. I don't know if you would want to call it a white paper, but it would be comparative to that, a publishable document paper regarding the need, the necessity for the type of cultivars that you are looking to preserve, that you are looking to bring out, and the necessity and the lack of medication throughout the world. What I also bring to the table is I'd like to be able to expand it and just give this to you guys, because that's what compassion is all about, is giving. And I want to give my time as the founder of the Global Cannabinoid Research Center, which means connections all over the world. Listening to Tim talk, I asked about CBG because I've got a 22% CBG land race in Thailand right now. I'm working on a JV with, and he's got multiple others. He's got like 4 hectares growing of land races. I don't know what to do with this stuff. I run across people with land race all the time in different nations because of my title who want to work with me, and I work with them and I talk to everybody, but I don't know what to do with all these different cultivars or where to send them to. And, I've been getting your invitations for a year and a half, and I decided to hit the button today And I'm so glad I did because I love California cannabis. I don't like what I've seen happen to it. And I'll do anything to preserve that just a little bit of what I got from Dennis Perone and company, from what I got from bringing compassion oils to him. I mean, I did my first labs in high school up at Clear Lake High School.
We know Clear Lake. We lost you, Mike. Or did you all lose me? Jasper, I need you to get off the internet. I need you to get off the internet.
So it's just crazy that here I am, almost 60 now in this position, and 35 years ago this was illegal pot. I want to do whatever I can. I don't want to take up your microphone space anymore, but anything I can do, any collaboration I can do, I've got time for it. I'm writing books right now. I've cleared space, so please reach out.
Well, thank you, Mike. We were reached out to by an organization in Oregon, and one of the things that they made me realize about this project and that would also empower these farmers is aligning the plant profiles that we're looking at, because we're looking at them so in-depthly, with patient profiles. And there's a doctor, I can't remember his name, but he passed away recently, who's done 40 years of research and has cannabinoid plant profiles aligned with patient outcomes. So your kind of information is what we don't have, right? And well, we're not experts in that, but it's also, I think, good for everybody, patients, researchers, the farmers, pulling that data together, because that's how we hone in on, wow, does Trainwreck and Wichipec, regenerate a spine because it grows in Wichipec and has a specific profile? Now, all of a sudden, Wichipec, the whole community is empowered through that genetic profile. So yes, thank you. Time of literally 170 people and $10,000 is what accomplished this project. So thank you. It's the most valuable piece of this project is people's heart and time. And really what we've got, the kind of data we have from that little piece of goodness is going to help move things forward for a lot of different people. And then the auction itself, when we get there, I think is going to be really great. Josh or Mike, sorry.
No, just reach out and let me know, and let's talk sometime, because I think that a published paper by your group, I guess I'm in this group, huh?
Wow. Well, yeah.
It's the least I can give. I'm writing private research for GCR. Global Cannabinoid Research Center is now privately owned by Nanables Corporation. It's all tucked under a California corp now. So I'm privately writing papers that are just getting stuffed into a library. I feel like I'll fall over one day and then my work will come out. And I don't really want that. And just hearing you guys talk and I'll tell you, just the heart that I see in it, the passion I feel from it. It's what I want to do. We're missing this, man. We're missing this. This is truly the culture of cannabis that sometimes, I mean, and I'm a pretty abrasive guy, but sometimes I literally feel like almost crying because it's like nobody's sitting around a coffee table throwing in anymore. Nobody knows what it's like, and people have lost touch, and even people that are so close to the plant moved away. I don't know how to grow, and I'll share with your group. I have never grown a cannabis plant. I've tried about a dozen times, man, and I've got like a black thumb, man. I just can't do it. I can't even grow a squash. So I'm always like so fascinated by what you guys do. And I want to thank you all, every last one of you, because I can't do anything without somebody growing something. And I wouldn't be alive without people growing cannabis. That's just a fact. So thank you.
Well, thank you, Mike. Thank you so much. Daniel, I see your hand.
Can do it. Oh,
Hey, I think I'm in better service now. How am I doing?
Good. Good.
Good.
You're safe.
Yeah, sorry about that. I was just right in arcade. I couldn't figure out why I wasn't getting service good, but yeah, just it was nice to hear what was. I'm sorry, who was that was just on?
His name is Mike Robertson. He's been a researcher. I don't know. Mike and I, we've been talking for like 10 years, maybe 9 years, and he's a researcher in the space. Also a patient.
Yeah, nice to hear Mike just drawing focus to some of the things that I think this meeting's about. And I just, also support just like, I think I'm glad that you've drawn us this far, Lele, and excited to like, put kind of like some punctuation around it with maybe metaphorically and literally by putting together that white paper. And just, I know that you've discussed with Mitchell, right, about working with the paper, and you've got kind of like a numbers figure, in mind. And we love contributing time, but like it does take money, and just like, we recognize that. And I appreciate you putting a figure together kind of for a goal of like, hey, can we pay Mitchell, who I've worked with in the past? Mitchell wrote a grant for Hendrix, a grant application for Hendrix, and did an awesome job. So I really trust and like Mitchell a lot. We worked at the Ethical Data Alliance. So, we don't have a lot of money to contribute in the cannabis industry, but like, definitely pledge, I can pledge $200 and hopefully more, just to get things going. So like, if anybody can also, I know it's hard, but contribute financially, it's like, I just really appreciate Lele and been putting in so much work for the last several years to get to where it is. So really important. And thank you for just what you were saying, Mike, and giving us motivation, because I think that was pretty spot on. So.
Thank you, Daniel, very much. I appreciate it, and I appreciate the kudos, but really it's everyone that came. I mean, all of you guys did all of this for no fees, and we managed to spread it through the supply chain okay, but you guys just gave so much. Thank you. I appreciate it, Daniel, very much. And I do, for those of you that don't know, the first white paper was published in 2022. And this will be in our white paper, but we gave that white paper to Nicole Elliott in 2022. 8 months later, the state of California came out with a $20 million grant for research on legacy genetics. And so we believe that this white paper is the next phase of that. We did that in a more stealth manner because of the politics, and we knew we had a big lift ahead of us. So we didn't make a big public thing about it. We didn't go out and educate on it because we knew we weren't done yet. But now we finished what we said we were going to do in that first white paper, and hope to make that sort of impact, if not more, because the conversation has advanced so much since 2022, and the politics are shifting, and people need new creative solutions. This was presented to Humboldt County Board of Supervisors. It was under a NDA for a while, as an entire tourism marketing proposal to empower the Emerald Triangle. And we were hit hard by some politics. And the county came to us and said, look, this is incredible, but can you pull out and do this privately so it actually happens? And I'd be happy to show anyone that asks that proposal that we gave to the county. If you want to get involved deeply with the data right now, until we're done with the white paper, the data is under an NDA, not because we're hiding anything, but we just want to strategically launch this so we can lead the conversation so it makes sense. It's an incredibly complex thing that we've been doing for these past few years, and it really needs to come out right. And we also want it to come out in a giving, offering way, like we're offering education, not that we're asking anything for the community. What we did is went and did the work for the community, and a lot of the community helped us do this work, but we made it as little light as lift for them as possible. And a lot of us see this as kind of a gift. So that's what we're doing. And it's going to cost about $5,000 to complete the white paper, $2,500 to get Mitchell going. 15% of that goes to the ink people there who carry us. They do all my administrative stuff. They're one of the most established nonprofits in Humboldt County who focuses on arts and culture. And they've been incredibly generous to be our mother parent nonprofit ship, so we can give away tax write-offs and all those good legal things, and it's fully legit. So that's where we're at. That's where we're going. next week or next month. It'll be our next meeting. It'll be similar like this. We won't be diving into too much work. We're having the professor from Oregon State University come, and he is the professor in the PhD plant intellectual property class. And thanks to Patty got to present to them our project. I got to be there and answer questions, and they thought what we were doing was so incredible. They asked if we saw this working for other special plants, which of course we laughed and said yes. But also, they're going to come. He is going to come. The professor and one of his PhD students is going to come and present to us next month. And if you have any specific things you'd like an intellectual property plant PhD professor to tell us about, shoot me a note, and we can get them prepared. And then the meeting after that, I hope to have raised funds and have Mitchell come so we can all sit down and talk about, not just the objectives of the white paper, but also what calls of action do we want to do and what is the game plan afterwards, which I kind of outlined in the agenda. But I really want your input on the action, like what are we going to ask from the state? What are we going to ask from our community? Not meaning like things or money or time, but like what is it we want to impact them with? What do we want? Do we want to do a certification program? Education, there's all sorts of things. I don't think we want to do a certification program, but maybe we want to partner and help someone do a certification program. I don't know, but those are things that we need to figure out as a group. Anything else? Any questions before we sign off?
I'll give you can I talk for a sec? Can you hear me?
Of course, Patrick. Sometimes you just got to jump in because I can ramble on when I'm talking.
Something I'm really excited on, me and my team have been working on for quite a long while right now, is we have actually taken high toxic levels of PFA chemicals, non-forever chemicals in the soil down to non-detect in 60 days with an extortion of bacteria, some extremophiles, and some minerals. And I've been working on projects like this for a long time, and we've seen things that were going after metals or pesticides, but they like overpowered all other biology and just wiped out the colonies and everything else because they overpowered. But I think we're launching this right now, and across big ag. And it's super exciting. You're going to see a lot coming out right now. Scheduled for Joe Rogan podcast next year on this, and there's just some really cool stuff. But it's so affordable. A 5-acre box that goes right in if you're going to gypsum your 5 acres, like every farmer does in the early part of the season. You can add this stuff to that, and it's one process of going in that year, and it'll start doing its magic. And then we have a foliar that comes over, or a soil drench that comes backs up after a few applications of that later on. But for next to nothing, I'm like right here saying that we solved one of the world's problems. So I'm super excited about this right now.
Wow. Does it clean? Is it dioxin, Daniel, that's in the timber soil in the timberland? Does it clean that out? Do you know?
I mean, everything's a test, but yeah, there's so much discovery that hasn't been discovered because we always want to go into, a laboratory or a science class, and we don't want to have applicable experience living in the nature and really mimicking. Anyways, that's a whole nother, but that is it. There's so much in this. So we are now doing damage to pesticides, herbicides, and heavy metals right now. And the last test we did on a heavy metal uptake, and we're redoing the R&D on this, is we had a plant. We are growing cannabis plants on purpose in toxic soil, and the toxic soil was systemically taking it up into the plant. The plant was about 14 inches tall, and we did a plant leaf, test, and we could see the levels going up into the plant. And after we applied these products and it went to flower and finish, there was nothing. There was non-detect in the bud and non-detect in the leaf, so it actually pulled it back out somehow. So this is just crazy. It's just so beyond. It's Mother Nature, man. It's beyond a classroom. It's so beyond a classroom, and it's so exciting. So much discovery and things to learn right now. But I think we just came around a corner that's going to, change the world. I really do.
Well, I would be interested in learning more about that because one of the big things up here is that most of the industrial lands were and still are owned by timber. I think they're going to buy some of them back. And part of their problem is they can't redevelop because of the dioxin levels on the land.
I don't think you're going to have a problem with that. I think we have that, as well as this tech was actually the bacteria that's involved in this, and some of the science behind some of this came from the early 80s, I think the late 70s, early 80s, from the military. And they've been doing all these different studies and stuff. So this is where it started. and was left off unfinished, right? And here we've figured it out and picked it up. So there's like 30 years of data and research on this that's coming with it too. And they were studying Agent Orange and eliminating it, right? It was crazy on the stuff that was happening. So I think we're there. So yes, the answer is yes. And it's super affordable. And I'm breaking it down into smaller packages. So just imagine if you got a greenhouse and you got beautiful beds out there and you popped last year for heavy metals, and next thing you know, we can put this on it, and the next year you're not going to have that issue, right? And this is the kind of stuff that's instead of replacing the soil, like pennies on the dollar, really affordable.
Well, and it could really increase that industrial property's real estate value. Like if you can clean up those and that's just not here. I mean, that's all the Pacific.
I know there's all of that everywhere right now, but it's, again, we all know the cost of research and lab tests and everything else that goes into this, and we're skipping. So my business partner is on this is Pat Militek. If you guys ever know, I think he's 5-time UFC champion, old school, just a crazy, worldwide wrestler, just competition guy who has his own story of coming up when he was young. He had some immune disorder and he couldn't breathe. He had 50% of the oxygen intake growing up, and he fought to be, a warrior coming through high school in sports, but he only had 50% of the oxygen intake in his body, but he still hit the limits compete where everybody else is. And when he got a young adult, they fed him pharmaceuticals, they fed him all this stuff to try to cure him or bandage him, and he couldn't do it. And what he found out was probiotics in the soil. It was a extortion of mycology, all this stuff to it, and humates that he did, and he cured himself. And at that time he cured himself, he was already in competition at that 50% to 100% level, and he outcompeted immediately everybody and became world champion of everything he did. Like his story is he's soil savior. That's his line online if you go there. And so so there's a lot of it's pretty it's here. So just stay tuned. It's coming right now. We're getting ready to launch it. I'm doing podcasts, heading out to Iowa to go do podcasts on this and stuff in the next couple of weeks. Super excited.
I've been enjoying watching your growth and transformations and not giving up.
Yes.
And, rising up. It's just been beautiful. And what a great role model for a lot of men in our community too, that need to work, past all those hurdles too.
Well, and the support counts. Like, a lot of times, especially us men, when we go through this, and we've been through it in the last 3-4 years, is incredible, destructive. You guys all know I went, I lost everything and I rebuilt everything. I'm in the process of it, but the outcome of it was the best. I'm the best person I've ever been in my life, spiritually, mentally, and physically, emotionally today, because I went through all that. And I could say people like you, that reached out once in a while and kept me, and tapped in. There wasn't a lot. Men don't reach out. So in our community, the message back to you is if you don't hear from somebody you know and you love and you respected and you hear they're going through a hard time, man, pick up that phone. I had a gun in my mouth, right? I was committing suicide. That's where I was at. I'm a suicide survivor because of that. So, pick it up, man. We're worth it. We're all worth it. We're a community of love and support. We came from it. We don't all get it right. We all failed. No doubt about it. We all fucking failed and attacked and went in and attacked each other because we didn't know what else to do. But at the end of the day, those of us are still standing, man. And those of us that aren't, respect and gratitude to everybody. And it's all about the love and support. It really is.
Which is really like what kept us safe in the first place.
It is. It was, remember that? It was so good. It was so amazing the early years were so amazing. And Mike, I've known you for many, many years, and to see you here, at first I didn't know it was you, and you started speaking, and I got to give you high five and respect I follow you and I'm a fan of yours, brother. I see you. Like I've seen a lot of what you've done over the years, and I'm a super fan, bro. So, yeah.
Yeah, well, I so appreciate the appreciation, and likewise, Patrick. Just getting back to those root values. It's the people who love this plant and who followed the plant and understand her as a teacher and as a guide, I share a unique set of values because we don't get them from anywhere but the plant. Those direct conversations, and so getting back to that community and doing what we can to make sure that we at least have a place in the cannabis economy, even if we don't rule it entirely.
Yeah, respect, brother. Steve,
it's
been many, many years from sitting out in front of Harborside, getting robbed back in the day, right out in the parking lot, to being able to become this person I am because of you and what you offered and the fight that you gave for this industry. Like I grabbed your belt loop for so many years, man, and so thank you for everything, the Godfather. Thank you, man.
Thank you. Thanks for that respect and appreciation. And we're not done yet. Stay tuned. I've been working on some new concepts that hopefully will unite our community again. I'm not quite ready to roll them out yet, but you'll be hearing about them soon. And I look forward to coming back, Lele, and presenting them to the group and answering questions. And we were called by this plant to a mission that mission isn't complete yet. And so, you know, we got to figure out where we went sideways and what the way forward is. So look forward to doing that with you, Patrick, and with all of you, with all of us who have been called by this plan.
Gratitude, brother.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, everyone, for always coming to this table with compassion and openness to each other. Thank you very much. It really, as you will all see as this white paper develops, the power in it is just, and what you guys have all given me as a woman in leadership and allowing me to use my mind, yet my heart at the same time. It's the first time I've ever gotten to do that fully. And it's been a struggle, as a lot of you know, for me in this industry. And you guys all showed me that what I believed is true is that we can lead from our heart and do powerful things. And I think we're gonna help teach a whole lot of other people that as well, which is just, I really do give thanks for this project every day. All right, well, we are like 21 minutes over. Oh, and it was 4:20. How perfect. Anyone else? Any last words? I'm going to put this on our YouTube and send it to the group. One, because there was so much incredible information shared between all of us. But like Tim, we've had a lot of similar conversations like this, but Tim really laid it out in a way that was like boom, boom, boom. It was pretty like, this is what it is. And the seed stuff he gave, I think a lot of people could benefit from that. And we didn't say anything, I think, that'll put any of us in jail or shame us. You guys were all quite beautiful, I thought. But if you guys have any questions or any ideas, please reach out. I'm not working right now. I'm actually hoping to come to Minnesota for a little bit, and I'm in the process of interviewing with a really cool brand that's picking legacy breeders and building brands around them as their PR specialist, or who knows. So I'll be a little busier soon, I hope. But right now I'm on a little break from the museum. And I'm giving this everything I got because I believe in it a lot. And I think our community needs this. I think it's not only going to give new ideas, but it's going to give hope. So I'll end on that note. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. I really do love you all, and be safe. And let's just like send lots of love out today to each other and our brothers and sisters in the entire planet, because we need it. So.